Good morning to all of you across Latin America and the Caribbean. And good afternoon to our guests in Germany. Welcome to the ExpoVirtual Energiewende Latin America. My name is Maria Jose Sase. I am consultant at Energiewende GmbH. We are a Berlin-based consulting company with national and international activities. Our services include the organization and management of expert seminars and conferences, development of investment and marketing strategies for businesses, as well as creative networking and communication. Our main focus is environmentally sound and sustainable energy systems, both on a national and global scale. The idea of this virtual fair and conference is to bring political, economical actors together to explore new routes and ideas to fight against climate change and together create an energy transition. If I was today to ask an applause from all of you, I would ask for an applause to our partners. We are very proud about the large number of cooperation partners showing their appreciation for our project. The 20 German chambers of commerce in Latin America with their important network in the energy sector and other professional institutions and associations working in Latin America. You might see their logos on the facade of our fair and throughout our exhibition halls. Before I start, I would like to tell you a couple of things that are important in order to have a great experience. Please use the full screen in order to better see the slides during the presentation. And to all of our speakers, when I ask you on stage, please turn on your camera and microphone. Otherwise, please be so friendly to leave the stage to other speakers. You may turn your cameras now off. And I just want to remind of all of our audience that our speakers are open for questions. Please feel free to ask them. There's a special chat box on the upper right side of your screen. You can write your questions. We will collect them and we will read them to our speakers after the presentation. The presentations will be set, or most of our presentations actually will be set for 20 minutes and allow a 5-minute session for questions and answers. I would also like to extend an invitation to visit the different pavilions of the fair. Just because we cannot be together, it doesn't mean we cannot talk to each other. Maybe we're not shaking hands, but we still have the opportunity to connect with each other and introduce yourselves. All of the exhibition halls, there is the possibility to chat with exhibitors. There are many features for video conference, to set appointments, and to download documents that our exhibitors have loaded up for you. You're also welcome in our lounge and our networking lounge. That is an open lounge that you can go to. You can introduce yourselves, and you can talk about the topics of the day and maybe set up bilateral meetings to talk personally to each other. Very important is to know that this live conference will be recorded and will be available to you on demand. You can watch these later on the day or throughout all of the days of the fair. If you have questions and you don't know where to go, you are more than welcome to visit us in our booth. We have a booth in the Global Hub Pavilion. Me and my colleagues are going to be there. You can come to us and ask us questions and we can guide you through our fair. So I want to come now to the next part, to one very important part, and I want to thank our speakers of today for accepting our invitation and for preparing also these insightful presentations about technology, political strategies, and project implementations. We're going to be able to see also hands-on projects that are already made. We can ask questions about the experiences. So I am very happy. Today's topic is energy transition and green power generation. Our speakers for the first session, you might see in our program. Now you can also download this. We have first Her Excellency Ms. Cecilia Maquena Echaurren, Ambassador of Chile to Germany. And following come Mr. Stefan Krauter, professor from the University of Paderborn. We also have the honor to have Mr. Yaulis Rivas from the Dominican Republic and a representative from the German National Association for Solar Economy, Mr. Jan Knack, and Ms. Carla Tapia, who is going to talk about some wind projects. So now with much honor, I am calling up our first speaker of the day, Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Chile to Germany, Ms. Cecilia Maquena Echaurren. She is a familiar face in both regions because of her permanent efforts to create relationships between Germany and Latin America. Your Excellency, I leave the floor to you and welcome your words.
Thank you so much. Very good morning to all of you joining us from Latin America, and good afternoon to all of you joining us from Germany and other parts. It gives me really a great pleasure to be with you opening this 4 days conference on such an important topic as the energy transition, a subject that can help all our countries in a very substantive way to offer a better future for the coming generations. To start talking about energy partnership between Chile and Germany, we have to go back in time. Although a formal agreement was signed in April 2019, this was nothing more than the culmination of a long process of cooperation on environmental and energy matters between our two countries. The question then arises, if the cooperation between Chile and Germany has been so positive during these years, how can this partnership contribute as a novelty to the relationship? This association provides a platform for the development of high-level intergovernmental political dialogue and a way to promote best practices between both our countries, as well as to create joint work opportunities for both the private and the public sector in each country. Beyond the step forward that this political platform enables, the partnership is also a declaration of interdependence between both countries, which are complementary on the objective of developing and ensuring a permanent energy supply and promoting an international agenda in favor of decarbonization. As an example, both countries have similar itineraries regarding coal exit and carbon neutrality, which both aspire to achieve in 2050 or by 2050. This interdependence will be driven and deepened by the new dynamics that the partnership can create between our states and our private companies. Chile aims to develop its green energy in order to make it more competitive and become a relevant actor as clean energy exporter. On its part, Germany, in its objective of advancing its goal of achieving decarbonization, needs to look to other markets. And here is where we stand ready to enhance our working together. Chile's experience in working with Germany has been very positive so far. In the practical application of our partnership, we have counted very strongly with the permanent support of JSEC. This has allowed us to establish working groups on decarbonization and other innovative issues, while joint events have been supported and financed, for example, at COP25, or through business events. However, the most important cooperation that has taken place within the framework of the partnership was the help provided by JSEC and the German companies and scientists in the creation of Chile's green hydrogen strategy that was launched just recently, as you all know. The true added value of this partnership should should in the future revolve around green hydrogen, which we hope it should be a cornerstone of our energy cooperation in the years to come. To analyze this relationship, we must start with the German hydrogen strategy and how it is complemented by the capabilities of Chile. Germany aims to be #1 worldwide when it comes to the development of hydrogen technologies, for which it has allocated a fund of 5 billion euros. However, it recognizes that much of the hydrogen that will decarbonize its industry needs to be imported, which is why a fund of 2 billion euros will be allocated to the development of foreign markets and financing of pilot projects. This is where we consider that Chile has comparative advantages and that can be very well complemented by Germany's needs for sustainable energy. Chile has some of the best conditions in the world for renewable energy generation, both in wind and solar power, which allows to greatly reduce the cost of green electrolysis. At this time, only Chile has a projected capacity by 2030 to get a kilogram of green hydrogen for a price less than $1.5 US, the lowest in the world. This low production cost makes it possible to also compensate for the higher transportation costs. To produce the cheapest green hydrogen by 2030 and for it to be competitive with the so-called gray hydrogen, the first step requires investing and attracting a significant number of pilot projects and above all, new technology. According to the latest information from Chile's Ministry of Energy, there are 20 companies currently carrying out hydrogen pilot projects in Chile. We hope to add several more in the short term, thanks to a new strategy and our hydrogen fund. In addition to the funds, a series of new measures will be promoted, such as a task force that will internally discuss how to support these projects in early stages of development, along with a new hydrogen investment framework. To support the developments of a new exporting market, this task force will create a roadmap to discuss a path towards a future carbon price, which could reflect the externalities of fossil fuels in Chile. We hope that once the competitive objective is achieved by 2030, we can begin to export hydrogen to the world. We estimate that Germany and Europe could be two of our main export markets for our hydrogen. This is an opportunity for a deeper collaboration between Chile's generation conditions and German technology to make it increasingly competitive. In this scenario, Germany would deepen its strategic relationship with Chile to new areas, while our country could support the development of this new market, which in turn could provide clean energy to other industrial countries for a green future. I thank you so much to everybody, and I wish you a very successful conference in these 4 days. Thank you so much.
Ms. McKenna, I thank you for those words that are very much future oriented, and it is a great example about the work together between two countries, Germany and Chile, and I am very thankful that you showed us this. It is a great example about how we cannot isolate and stay alone, but we need to work together with many other countries in the world, and your words are for me an invitation for other countries to participate in this objective about an energy transition. Thank you very much. Now it has come the turn to introduce you. Mr. Stefan Krauter Mr. Krauter is a professor in the University of Paderborn. I think his message is going to be very interesting because Mr. Krauter does not only have experience in Germany, but he has worked long periods also in Brazil and in Bolivia, and he is very much aware about the conditions and resources in Latin America. Mr. Krauter, thank you very much for taking up on our call and for sharing your knowledge with all of us. You may take the floor.
Thank you very much for this kind introduction. Just a question, do you see my presentation now? Because I have two monitors here and each shows something
Yes,
different.
we can see it.
So it's in full...
Oh, pardon. Screen? No, we cannot yet. Can you please try to share it and...
wait a minute.
We might see it.
Because here it shows, but this was... 1 second. Oh, I cannot see it here. No, I see it here, but you can't see it here. No, there's no.
No, we cannot see it.
Wait a minute. Just make it smaller here. Oh God, no, because it's here. God, sorry.
It's okay, we can give you a couple of seconds. It's very normal in this new type of online event, and it's absolutely no problem. I would like to remind all of our guests that the presentations are going to be online, and if you missed something, you can always go back. Stefan, now we can see your presentation, and to the audience, you can use the full screen in order to look at it.
Thank you very much. So you can see all
I'm sorry, Stefan, you just have to switch screens, please.
Okay.
So that we can see a complete picture of it. Now it's perfect. That's okay, yes, that's it.
Thank you very much again. Just I want to give you a brief introduction about what's the aim and the motivation of energy transition. It started in Germany, but I want to also do the transfer for Latin America or globally. And the first motivation in Germany to do that, to switch from conventional energy supply to renewables, was in 2000. It was even earlier than 2011, but the nuclear accident in Chernobyl accelerated them a lot. So the basic idea was to abandon nuclear power, which was found out that it cannot, safe operation cannot be guaranteed, even in industrialized countries, not only Chernobyl, it was Fukushima. Sorry, 2011 was not Chernobyl, it was 1986, I think. And so this was, I think, what shocked most of our president, Mr. Merkel, that even in a very disciplined, highly industrialized country like Japan, such things can happen. And therefore, the idea was to abandon nuclear power. Also, that there is no commercial insurance for operation. So the Manager magazine found out in Germany, they did some study that the costs really for insurance would cost about 70 billion euros per year to operate one nuclear power plant safely. So this is an indirect subsidy which is covered now by the people of Germany and so on, or each other country. Also, the final waste storage is not solved, so just keep in mind 50% of radiation still exists after 12,000 years of storage. So imagine just the old Egyptian pyramids, they are only 4,000 years old. And it was very hard to even find out what they wrote on the hieroglyphs and so on, and this is 3 times as much. And proliferation, that's also a big issue. Started with Iran because Iran was considered once in the 60s, 70s as very safe countries. Now it's not. Same happens now a little bit in Brazil, so people don't know how this government develops, whether it will get a military government, and if you have the opportunity to manufacture nuclear weapons, perhaps they will do it and so on. So this is really a big issue that you cannot use it for global power supply. And also, come to this a bit later, the uranium resources are quite limited. It's not an unlimited resource as many people think. This was number one. The second one, which came up more during the last years, was the reduction of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emissions. So the climate change became more evident. So the melting of glacier became quite evident, the rise of the sea level, droughts in many countries, including also in Latin America, and more weather extremes. So we have more high and extreme low temperature and more stronger and frequent storms. If you take a look how the carbon dioxide is created, we just have to look at the development of the world's energy supply. So you see here during the years after the Second World War, there was a big increase in power needs, and most of it, the very most of it, is based on fossil fuels. Only a very few options are without carbon dioxide emissions.
Wahrscheinlich per
And
E-Mail
you
gerade
see
oder
it
so.
here on the lower graph, the blue one are by renewables, hydro and other renewables, wind and solar. The black one is by nuclear power, which stagnated a bit in the change of at the millennium, but renewables took up very fast. But it's much too little. So the biggest part of the energy supply is by fossil fuels, which emit a lot of carbon dioxide. And you see it in the accumulation of this gas in the atmosphere. So since 1959, there have been constant measures in the volcano at Mauna Loa. Before, it was made by ice drillings, or not before, but it was reconstructed by ice drillings in the Antarctica. You see the arrow bar here, so it is not really very big in terms of carbon dioxide concentration, but there's some years of difference, but in all together they fit very well to an exponential curve. And you see it that this causes a greenhouse effect, so the thermal radiation from the ground cannot escape and therefore is heating up our planet. It's not something always undesired, because without the natural greenhouse effect, our planet would be 33 degrees colder than it's now. So this is okay, but now we are exaggerating it due to the high accumulation of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And on the right picture, you see some simulations by well-known laboratories. And so they are between 5 degrees plus 2 degrees plus. We see later what even a 2-degree temperature increase will cause. And the latest development here in temperature, you see that we are already above 1 degree already. Some people also say that's not correlated, carbon dioxide and temperature, but this graph shows that it is. So this is the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere and the changes in temperature. So you see here that we have this correlates quite well. If we go to the year 0, which is about the year 1700 after Christ, this is about a change in temperature about 0, and the carbon dioxide concentration is about 250 ppm. That stands for parts per million. So this means it's 0.25% of the atmosphere, so it's quite little, but the effect is quite severe. If you go back to our concentration here, you see now we are well above 400. So this stops here at the year 2000, but now we have about 410. So this is well above this scale you have here, which started 150,000 years ago. And there are even companies interested now in climate change which don't have to deal with it before. For example, the Munich reinsurance companies. So they observing since 20-30 years an increased economic damage by natural disaster. And they made some statistics, and they even found a group for natural disaster relief. And they say this is causing additional damage, which hasn't so much been considered. First you thought about agriculture is problematic or so on, but this really causes some friction also with the insurance industry. This is by MIT, so the estimations about what happens due to global warming. So what we observe already now, even at 1 degree increase of temperature, that the crop yields falls in the United States, but also in many parts of Latin America. And the glaciers melt. You can see this by satellite or even by photographers which were on glaciers in the 70s, and compare those photos. The glaciers actually melt. And you have water shortages. Even in Brazil, in the south, there was a problem with water shortage, or Argentina or Uruguay. And okay, Chile was always a bit drier, but this is getting more severe now. And what's happening after 4 degrees is the rising sea levels. What we see now already is that the reefs are damaged. So the Great Barrier Reef in Australia had some severe bleaching. And what we already observe is some species extinction, which will get more severe if we go above 2 degrees of temperature increase. What I already mentioned are the increase of storms, droughts, fires, and heat waves. And it could even lead, if we reach the tipping point of 2%, there could be even a more abrupt climate change. So this was one of the motivations, the second motivation. Also, another motivation is to reduce the dependency on imported fossil fuels. Because, okay, there's international cooperation, but it has some impacts, as I will show you. So if you see the foreign policy of the US, they call it wars for democracy, but even they admitted that they are securing oil resources by this kind of wars. And if you are independent, you see that in Europe, at some Scandinavian countries, or if you Switzerland, they have their own energy supply, so they're not so much dependent on the importation of fossil fuels, and this allows you to be more objective. You don't have to consider in your diplomacy about the oil resources. So if you compare, for example, this hypocrisy, if you compare Saudi Arabia with Cuba, so Saudi Arabia is not really democratic, but it's treated well by many countries, including Germany, and while Cuba is okay, it's not really democratic, but there is a total a stop in dealing with that. And if you compare those two countries, you can clearly say that Cuba is in a way more democratic than Saudi Arabia. Also, these costs, these are some costs, what costed the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. So you see here, that's amounted already about to 1,450 billion US dollar only until 2013. So this is really a cost that has to be added to the cost of the fossil fuels. And in Germany, we are heavily dependent on that. So if you see here the dependency, what I already mentioned, if you go to the right side, 100% of the uranium is imported. So it doesn't help if you switch to nuclear power and so on. But also the other, so you see here, hard coal, okay, there's still some resources left, but very scarce and very expensive. Petroleum, almost 100% imported, and also natural gas. So these are the main reasons for energy transition. So how we can proceed with that, we give you some outlook on the possible resources in comparison to the world's energy consumption. So you see here this little red cube. This represents the world's energy consumption, not only electricity, all kind of energy during 1 year. In comparison, we have all resources we have. These are not for 1 year only, these are for all times. So we have coal resources, okay, they will last, if you compare the size of these cubes, perhaps they last for 100, 200 years. Oil is much less, maybe 50 years, and even gas is even much less. So if you would supply the whole world only with natural gas, it would be depleted with a decade or 2 decades or so. Same applies for uranium resources. Then I have a quite interesting cube here. This represents the solar irradiance that hits the Earth during 1 year only. So this is much more than all resources together we have for all time, and much, much more, exactly 14,500 times the world's energy consumption during the year. So if we could only use a part, a very small part, only 1,000th or even less, as I mentioned, a 14,000th of that energy, we would have enough energy to supply the whole world with energy. If you use present technology or even use a very conservative estimate, photovoltaic efficiency of 10% only, nowadays we are well above 20%, you would come to this picture. So here is the desert of Sahara, and the area necessary to cover the whole world with photovoltaic solar energy only, with a conservative a conversion efficiency of 10% only. So you see here that the size is really bearable. It's not really enormous. Sure, it wouldn't be very good to concentrate that, but distribute it, but just to give you an idea about the size. So you see Europe, the blue cube, no, not cube, sorry, but the blue square. And if you see Germany and Brazil, interestingly, they have about the same energy consumption. So also the square would be about the same size. From the distribution side, it would be much more favorable if you would distribute these resources to different parts of the world and interconnect them with a global grid. And so you would level out the seasonal changes and especially the daily changes between day and night. So if we have, for example, morning in Vladivostok, the sun goes out down in Portugal or other parts of the world, and therefore you can level out the seasonal changes. Photovoltaic got very cheap. It got now the most used energy source for new power plants. So this is a global installed new power plants in 2019, and almost 50% of those new power plants have been solar photovoltaics. It's followed by wind, very few gas, not very few, but only half of it as if compared to wind, as gas power plants, much fewer coal, hydro 15, other renewables 5. Nuclear is not mentioned here because there have been in 2019 more nuclear power plants dismantled than set up new ones. So the net plus is 0. The German plan was just to ramp up renewables. It's not only valid for Germany, it's globally valid. So you have to reduce the consumption in order to make the energy transition cheaper. And this is just the outlook here for Germany. So you ramp up renewables, and the brown ones are the types or the sectors of energy consumption. I come to this a bit at the end of the talk. So we have the sector of transportation, of industry and commercial and households. And this is partly fulfilled. So we already have, if we just talk about the electricity sector first, we have this year already more than 50% of renewable electricity in our grid. Okay, if you compare to Latin America, so Brazil or Chile, they have just a higher share, but Germany started with 3 to 4% of renewables only 2 decades ago. And now we already more than 50%. If you take a closer detail look at that, you see here how this is structured. So most is by wind, but then followed by photovoltaics and so on. And we hopefully want to get 100% because at the moment we substituted the nuclear program almost, but therefore the net zero gain in carbon dioxide reduction is not very big because the nuclear power plants is also considered as carbon free. But if we come to now to 40%, to 60% or 70%, then you will really see a significant reduction in carbon dioxide. We'll now come to more problems or challenges, let's say, what happens with energy transitions. So we switch now to renewables, but we cannot use the same type of power plants. We need more flexible power plants. We need a flexible backup. This is not possible with many power plants in Germany, like lignite power plants. They are not flexible at all. Same applies for nuclear power plants. They have always to have a minimum load of 40%. They cannot be throttled down to 0%, such as gas power plants and so on. And on the left side, you see the formerly traditional way or just the present situation. In the future, it would go like this. So you see that the complementary resources or backup resources, they have to be quite flexible and to be throttled down up to 0% when the energy supply will be covered by renewables, at least for some parts of the day or some parts of the year. So you see here for a typical week. Let's talk about flexibility. What parameters and so on are there involved? So we have the supply side, the demand side, the transmission and distribution networks. Storage is a very important role. The market design can contribute to the flexibility, for example, by flexible tariffs. System operation also. And while my time is running out, we can say that each of those subjects could be a separate talk alone. Here you see just the different supply options and the operating media for it. So on the left side, you see the different types of photovoltaics, wind onshore, offshore, hydro, run-of-river, but more interesting, hydro reservoir. So it serves also as a storage, but also like Chile, for example, you have a lot of geothermal possibilities. Also Central America is very good for that. Germany not. And here you have the demand and the intersection or the interface is the AC grid. And here you have the different storage options. Yes, unfortunately, I cannot be discussing all of this because I have only 5 minutes left. So I just switch quickly over that. Here you see some quite interesting issues. For example, the complementarity of different resources. So here, for example, we see in the UK, in the middle, this is a year, what you see here, and in June, July, we have the red curve and we have most solar power supply, while in winter, like now, December, January, the solar power supply is minimum. But on the other hand, the green curves represent the wind power availability. They are vice versa. So you have a little wind resource in summer, but high wind resource in winter. And here you see the different percentages and probabilities and so on. Same applies also to many countries in Latin America. I was in northeast Brazil, and there you have most wind in September, but there's a drought there, so there's little water, and the hydropower plants cannot work there. So there's also a complementarity. And this applies for many countries, which should be used, and this saves really costs because you don't have to think about storage and 365 power supply by one resource only. These are some publications by Mr. Breyer here from the Finnish University, here from the LUT University, and he on the top is for North America, the bottom is South America. He shows some profiles. On the x-axis there is the day of the number of the year, and on the y-axis there is the time of day, and you see the coverage. So if it's red, there's a very high capacity factor, and that means it's very good. You see it here on the lower left part, that's photovoltaic solar energy, so it works good during midday and all year long. That is very different from the North American or European situation. So you don't have to care about the winter so much. And the right side, you see the winter profile. I just, unfortunately, time is running out, so I go switch over quickly. And I show the outlook, what has to be done to perform the transition of the energy system. And here you see the present situation, and this is not 24% renewables, this is a bit outdated. Now we have in Germany at least 50% renewables, but in order to get a higher percentage, we have to permit more generation. That means more wind power, more solar power, more biomass power, more hydropower. Hydropower is in Germany at least at its limit, but we live in the European Union, so there's could be a good cooperation. Same applies for Latin America. So these Brazil has, for example, a lot of hydropower, same as Venezuela. I think Chile is less hydropower, but they have an enormous resource in sun and wind in the Patagonia. And yes, and also for the infrastructures which have to be enforced in order to digest the increasing amount of renewable energy sources. This is now for the transportation sectors. This is really bad at the moment. So only 3% of the transportation sector is carbon free. Most of it is by carbon emissions, so diesel trucks or gasoline cars and so on. And this should be dramatically increased. For example, by using electric trains, public transport, or if you have private cars, then carry out electrification by that, which happens now. But if you see the job to be done, it's really minimal. Here, the other sector, if you go to the industry sector, there's 14% now covered by renewables, and it could be really increased a lot, for example, by cover all factory roofs by photovoltaics and so on, which fits really well because the people work during daytime, and so you can really supply most of the factories by renewables. In the nighttime, it's a bit calmer in the factories, at normal factories at least, and therefore you don't need any big backup supply. We are also discussing the building sector. That's also an important issue, how you can save energy already at the building construction. You have to think about also different scenarios now. If you want to supply a lot by solar power is very good to carry out air conditioning. And in Germany, most of the consumption is during winter. So if you change the construction, that they would use less heating, but more air conditioning. In total, they can even consume the same amount of energy. Better would be if it would be reduced. But just to shift the sectors of consumption, are you already able to supply more energy or have a higher share of renewables or especially photovoltaics? I see it's already at the end of my lecture. I thank you very much. And if you have any questions, just ask now or send me an email. Thank you very much.
Stefan, thank you very much for your input. It is very important to know the background. Why is this very important for the world? What is at stake, and how all sectors need to be involved together? There is a human interest and also an economical interest, and these are very important factors for the development of all of us as human beings. I am now the guardian of the time, and we're not allowed to go over time. So I thank you very much for giving us the possibility for the audience to write to you directly if they have any questions. But I would also like to invite our guests to go to our pavilions. There are also professionals there that are waiting for you to talk about these important topics, and I am sure you will get some answers there, or it will be the beginning of some very insightful and beneficial discussions for people in both sides of the ocean. Many thanks, Stefan. Now I have the privilege also to present you a guest from the Caribbean. In 2018, the Dominican Republic started the project to create an energy transition. This is also a very good example of cooperation between countries, and I am very, very thankful to Mr. Yeulis Rivas that he's going to talk to us about the experience, because every part of the world has different resources and the conditions are completely different. So it is very important for us to know about his experiences. This will be a presentation that's going to take place in Spanish. So I'm going to change now for the Spanish language. Estimado señor Rivas, le agradezco muchísimo su presencia y le agradezco también si puede ya iniciar su cámara y compartir su presentación. Estamos muy contentos y ansiosos de escuchar sobre sus experiencias aplicando proyectos para una transición energética en la República Dominicana.
Bien, buenos días por acá, República Dominicana. Buenas tardes por allá. ¿Me escuchan bien?
Aquí escucho perfecto. Sí, si puede compartir ya su presentación, ya estamos listos.
Un momentico. Compartir pantalla. ¿Se ve perfectamente? ¿Se está bien?
Se ve la presentación, sí. Solamente su cámara todavía no está encendida, pero la presentación ya se ve.
Eso es lo que estoy mirando. No, aparentemente tengo un problema técnico con la cámara.
Bueno.
Déjeme ver si brevemente resuelvo rápido. Configuración de video. Audio. Pantalla. No veo por qué no me está... no me está proyectando.
Bueno, si podemos poner la presentación, creo que ya es para...
Voy a poner la presentación, total, es más importante, ¿no? ¿Se ve ahí, me dijo?
Sí, la veo la presentación, sí.
Perfecto. Bueno, ahí está mi rostro de todas maneras.
Excelente, muchas gracias.
Lástima que la cámara esté dando problemas en estos momentos. Bueno, buenos días nuevamente por acá. Buenas tardes. Thank you for inviting me to this presentation. So for like Maria said, I'm going to do my presentation in Spanish language. So to feel more comfortable to transmit, to try to transmit all the passion of this presentation, the Caribbean form in the Dominican Republic. So let me, voy a solamente a colocar el puntero. Y bueno, mi presentación en el día de hoy se trata sobre retos, transición energética en República Dominicana, objetivos, desafíos y lecciones aprendidas. Y vamos a iniciar con prácticamente nuestras políticas del sector en energía de República Dominicana, las cuales están derivadas de la Constitución de nuestra República Dominicana, la Ley 125.01, que es nuestra ley marco de la Ley General de Electricidad, donde prácticamente tiene, entre otros aspectos, la promoción y garantizar la oferta oportuna de abastecimiento de energía y la promoción de inversión privada basado en la libre competencia, con promoción de competencia. Tenemos la Ley 5707 de incentivos al desarrollo de fuentes renovables y en la que nosotros nos vamos a concentrar un poco más en esta presentación, donde prácticamente es una ley de incentivo que promueve y fomenta el uso de energías renovables en todas las vamos a decir, en todas las magnitudes, sea a pequeña escala o a gran escala, pero sobre todo se destacan los proyectos a gran escala y prácticamente tiene una meta o un objetivo, ¿no? Que es el cubrir, entre otros aspectos, el 25% de las necesidades de energía eléctrica sean a base de fuentes renovables. Y también tenemos la Ley 101-2012, que es sobre la Estrategia Nacional de Desarrollo con una visión hacia el 2030, donde prácticamente establece un aseguramiento de suministro confiable de electricidad a precios competitivos y en condiciones de sostenibilidad financiera y ambiental. Dentro de esta normativa o directriz se derivan lo que es la diversificación de las fuentes de producción de energía, es decir, que esos objetivos se alcancen con la diversificación de las fuentes con una matriz energética mayor diversificada, obviamente tener la planificación o planificar la infraestructura eléctrica suficiente para admitir toda esta fuente amigable con el medio ambiente y también la promoción del uso racional de energía y fuentes y eficiencia energética. Bien, como decía, la Ley 5707, dentro del marco de regulatorio de República Dominicana, fue publicada en el año 2007 y un año después se publicó su reglamento de aplicación. La Comisión Nacional de Energía, que es la institución que estoy representando, actualmente es la responsable, entre otras cosas, de velar por el cumplimiento de dicha normativa y de sus reglamentos. Y la CNE, o el Estado Dominicano, mejor dicho, a través de la Comisión Nacional de Energía, otorga lo que son las concesiones o los títulos habilitantes para la explotación de obras eléctricas, para la construcción y explotación de obras eléctricas, tanto de las energías de fuentes convencionales como de las energías de fuentes de origen renovable. El proceso de inversión en República Dominicana es básicamente, contempla un mercado abierto de inversión, es decir, cualquier interesado entra al mercado a través de una concesión definitiva o título habilitante para poder explotar y operar una obra de generación eléctrica en este caso. Ahí está, vamos a ver todas las, según las atribuciones y las directrices marcadas en la Ley 125.01, que es la Ley General de Electricidad, en su artículo 56. Asimismo, la Ley 5707 prevé la inversión directa con la condición del derecho otorgado por parte de dicha concesión definida anteriormente. Es decir, en esencia, la Ley 5707, que es la de fomento al desarrollo de fuentes renovables o de promoción de fuentes renovables, contempla 3 mecanismos de promoción que buscan el cumplimiento de sus objetivos. El régimen tributario, que es básicamente son beneficios fiscales, exoneración de impuestos, aranceles anuales a todo equipo que son importados, y así también maquinarias y accesorios que se van a instalar, por ejemplo, en un proyecto de generación de energía eléctrica a partir de fuentes renovables. Esto también incluye a los equipos que son de transmisión, transformación e interconexión al sistema eléctrico nacional interconectado de nuestra República Dominicana. El régimen operativo, que prácticamente garantiza un despacho preferencial en el CENI, es decir, se consideran este tipo de centrales con costos variables ceros para garantizar el despacho preferencial o prioritario en lo que le llamamos, ¿no?, en lo que es el despacho económico, y el régimen económico, que es un proceso que básicamente la ley estableció unos mecanismos de unos feed-in tariff originalmente, pero durante la ejecución o durante vamos a decir, durante el desarrollo de estas se crearon ciertas normativas complementarias que al final nunca se llegaron a complementar o a aplicar de manera correcta. En estos momentos, como comisión, nos encontramos en la revisión del proceso, ¿no?, del mecanismo de retribución, para entonces garantizar un mecanismo confiable y que le dé una señal a los inversionistas segura, ¿no?, y certera a la hora de invertir. Bueno, prácticamente el tema que nos compete es la transición energética. Y la transición energética podemos verlo simplemente como un desplazamiento de otras fuentes convencionales o fuentes obsoletas hacia fuentes modernas o de baja emisión de niveles de carbono, ¿no? Y si vemos el gráfico de aquí abajo, entonces también podríamos estar hablando de la movilidad eléctrica, que es otro tema que ha estado tomando fuerzas acá en República Dominicana. Pero yo quiero concentrarme en lo que son las fuentes de abastecimiento de energía renovable primaria, cómo ha sido la evolución y el salto que hemos dado. Hace 20 años, por ejemplo, podemos ver que nuestra matriz energética, prácticamente el abastecimiento por fuentes de energía renovables estaba en un 90% contenida con fuentes derivadas de petróleo, o sea, de fuentes de combustibles derivados del petróleo, y prácticamente un 10% de instalaciones hidroeléctricas que ya estaban en existencia incluso previa a la promulgación de la ley 5707. Ahora en el 2019, o para el cierre del 2019, porque ya estamos casi en el 2020, pero para el cierre del 2019, entonces la matriz energética terminó de esta manera, ¿no? Una matriz mayor diversificada, donde entran las instalaciones, sobre todo de hidroeléctricas, que no se han hecho básicamente construcción, aunque se han realizado proyectos de centrales hidroeléctricas, aún así, o como la demanda ha seguido subiendo, obviamente se ha mantenido la misma proporción de abastecimiento, y sabemos todos que en periodos, por ejemplo, donde hay sequía y hay poca producción de estas centrales, pero qué bueno que podemos contar en el día de hoy con un 8%, con un 9% de la producción del régimen especial, que ya fueron instalaciones que se construyeron o que se realizaron bajo el mecanismo de la ley 5707, bajo la promulgación, la sombrilla de la ley 5707. Básicamente tenemos un abastecimiento, o lo que representó el 2019, de un 5% de energía eólica, un 2% de energía solar y un 1% de fuentes de origen de biomasa, esto a base de la caña de azúcar. Si podemos ver acá en otro gráfico, esta ha sido la evolución de la capacidad instalada que hemos tenido en fuentes de energía renovable en el CENI, donde en el 2011 solamente contábamos con apenas 33.5 megavatios, que fueron los primeros parques eólicos que ingresaron al sistema eléctrico nacional interconectado, y hoy al 2020 se puede decir que tenemos una capacidad instalada de 558 megavatios entre proyectos eólicos, solares y fotovoltaicos. Ya para el 2020 o para el 2021, aunque están en un proceso de tramitación para la interconexión, pero se espera que a partir del trimestre del 2021, 2 proyectos que se están en una fase, como dije, bien avanzada de construcción, ingresarían al 2021, lo cual suman en conjunto unos 170 megavatios. Asimismo, en República Dominicana, por el recurso solar que gozamos, también hemos incrementado la capacidad o la inserción de fuentes de autoproducción renovable, sobre todo en sistemas fotovoltaicos para la autoproducción o iniciativas de autoproducción, donde aproximadamente 170 megavatios tenemos instalados al día de hoy, prácticamente donde 161 megavatios corresponden a clientes que están adscritos al programa de medición neta, o sea, el programa de que pueden intercambiar estas energía, estos excedentes de energía con la red distribuidora, con la empresa de distribución. Bueno, continuando con la capacidad instalada, es básicamente lo que mostrábamos anteriormente. Esto ya en capacidad instalada, no así en energía abastecida, donde actualmente, o al 2020, de los 3.824 megavatios que tenemos, pues contamos con una capacidad instalada en régimen especial, o sea, de energías renovables no convencionales que fueron construidas y entradas en operación posterior a la promulgación de la ley 5707, tenemos alrededor de un 3% y básicamente, como dice, en crecimiento. Esta ha sido la participación de las energías renovables no convencionales durante el año 2020. Solo muestro los datos del 2020, donde podemos evidenciar que habrán momentos, como bien explicó mi antecesor, de que en momentos de altos niveles de viento, pues vamos a tener obviamente un porcentaje mayor de las eólicas, principalmente porque es la capacidad que mayor tenemos instalada en el país, pero también obviamente vamos a tener en otros momentos valores descendientes, pero siempre se mantienen entre el 9 y el 6%, ¿no? Y prácticamente este es el comportamiento al cierre del mes de octubre, donde las energías renovables no convencionales en República Dominicana, esto es excluyendo las hidroeléctricas, representan alrededor de un 9%. Esto es muy interesante porque estos son los precios del mercado eléctrico mayorista. En los precios del mercado eléctrico mayorista o el mercado spot, obviamente aquí nosotros tenemos un mercado donde la máquina que abastece la última demanda o la central que entra para abastecer la demanda es la que fija el precio del mercado. Y obviamente este es un gráfico simple para que veamos por dónde andan los precios hoy en día, donde evidentemente en las zonas de las madrugadas pues los precios evidentemente tienen que ser más bajitos, y en otras zonas donde la demanda está aumentando, pues la demanda empieza a estar un poco más alta o los precios son un poco más altos. Sin embargo, uno de los dos aspectos que estamos observando o de carácter, digamos, de observación, es que hemos estado notando que justamente en los periodos donde existe mayor insolación o entendemos hay mayor insolación o producción solar, vemos que estos precios disminuyen. Claro, sabemos que la madrugada también disminuye, pero esto por un efecto de la demanda. Pero aquí también estamos mirando que durante las 11 de la mañana y las 1 de la tarde también estamos observando precios también disminuidos, ¿no? Esto, digamos, podemos afirmar, o todavía no con cierta certeza, pero por eso digo, estamos observando con datos históricos de que a través de la inserción de la autoproducción en República Dominicana, pudiera afirmarse de que estos precios o esta baja de los precios en estos periodos se debe o obedece a esta inserción de autoproducción en fuentes renovables en República Dominicana, donde, si bien este gráfico de acá, estos solamente fueron la representación de las inyecciones de algunos de los grandes usuarios que hicieron inyecciones durante los tiempos de pandemia, cuando básicamente se estableció los estados de emergencia en República Dominicana, donde muchas fábricas tuvieron que cerrar, pues muchas de las fábricas tuvieron que realizar inyecciones, pero hoy en día también se mantiene este balance de que en estas horas, evidentemente, se representa o se registra autoabastecimiento, ¿no? Y eso, digamos, pudiéramos, como digo, con más datos, con más informaciones, concluir a que este fenómeno se debe a esto. Entonces, ¿cuáles objetivos tenemos plasmados en República Dominicana al día de hoy? Bueno, es eminente que el gobierno dominicano está dando alta prioridad a la inversión de energías renovables en República Dominicana. En el evento de la COP25 se destacó la necesidad de cumplir la meta país de reducir las emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero a un 25% para el 2030. Y adicionalmente, para lograr el cumplimiento anterior, o la meta anterior, bueno, entonces fue compartida la meta de que para el 2023 al menos el 32% de la capacidad instalada sea a base de fuentes renovables. Evidentemente, esto es incluyendo las fuentes hidroeléctricas que tenemos en el país, que como vieron en el gráfico anterior, representa alrededor de un 13%. Si sumamos el 13% de las energías renovables no convencionales o las que fueron construidas bajo el amparo de la ley 5707, estaremos aproximadamente en un 24-25%. en capacidad instalada, obviamente. En el día de hoy, aquí yo les estoy mostrando una tabla de las cantidades de permisos adicionales, permisos provisionales y permisos definitivos, y aquellos también que están en operación al día de hoy. Si se fijan, lo que llamamos operación comercial son las que están actualmente en la capacidad y los proyectos que actualmente están operando. Entre ellos tenemos 9 proyectos eólicos, 4 proyectos fotovoltaicos, su capacidad está aquí al lado, un proyecto de biomasa para una suma total de 589 megavatios, que se parece mucho a la gráfica que le presenté originalmente. Pero si se fijan en concesiones definitivas, es decir, concesiones o empresas que tienen títulos habilitantes para operar, evidentemente le estaríamos sumando, aparte de los 589, le estaríamos sumando unos megavatios adicionales o proyectos adicionales que están en curso, que están en operación, que están en proceso de construcción. O sea, que pudiéramos tener, vamos a decir, siendo conservador al cierre del año 2022, una capacidad de alrededor de 1.500 megavatios, siendo muy conservador. Porque hay proyectos que obviamente por alguna razón no necesariamente llegan a la fase, digamos, de construcción. Y esto más de las problemáticas que hemos visto y de las lecciones aprendidas, si se puede decir así, es el tema del financiamiento. O sea, a la hora de obtener el financiamiento, hay siempre como algunos escollos ahí. Y en concesiones provisionales o provisionales, digamos, permisos que se otorgan a los interesados, los peticionarios, para realizar estudios, análisis y prospecciones, tenemos alrededor de 45 proyectos para un total de 2.264 megavatios. Es decir, que sumando todo en conjunto, es decir, entre las concesiones provisionales y definitivas, e incluyendo las que están en operación comercial, estaríamos hablando de concesiones de alrededor de 3.786 megavatios aproximadamente. Si hacemos una mirada hacia el futuro y hablamos de las metas que tenemos que cumplir, sobre todo la que establece la ley del abastecimiento de un 25% de todas las necesidades del servicio al 2025, sí estaríamos en un escenario optimista de que todos los proyectos logren materializarse. Bueno, estaremos hablando de que para el 2025 podríamos estar alcanzando esta meta, donde simplemente en función del crecimiento de la demanda de las empresas distribuidoras, esto es solamente contemplando el sistema eléctrico interconectado, esto sin estar contemplando los sistemas aislados, estaremos hablando de que ese 26 o ese 25% lo estaríamos alcanzando para el 2025. Obviamente, si para esa fecha solamente con 800 megavatios tendríamos en capacidad instalada. Esto es, digamos, prácticamente lo que tenemos hoy en día, como presentamos, entre un 9 y un 8%, y a medida que la demanda de los proyectos que mencioné anteriormente vayan ingresando, y la demanda obviamente no es estática, la demanda va a ir creciendo, y sobre todo ahora con el tema de esta pandemia que ha estado, digamos, azotando a nivel mundial, se ha visto la necesidad de que en las casas se tenga mayor hora de uso de esta energía, pues obviamente las distribuidoras también van a tener ese incremento y se va a requerir mayores inversión, sobre todo para cumplir las metas establecidas en la Estrategia Nacional de Desarrollo, que sean con fuentes de abastecimiento, que sean abastecidas sobre todo con un porcentaje considerable de fuentes renovables. Pero bueno, estamos aprendiendo, todo el mundo, digamos, los niños cuando nacen también para poder caminar y poder correr, pues tienen que aprender a gatear, y eso es algo, digamos, que hemos estado experimentando a lo largo de estos años en República Dominicana. Una de las lecciones aprendidas que puedo compartirle así, digamos, de experiencia que hemos tenido, es que evidentemente cuando teníamos los primeros proyectos eólicos, donde obviamente teníamos una diferencia muy marcada en la definición de los pronósticos. Es decir, nosotros teníamos una disponibilidad de un parque declarado, por ejemplo, para febrero, estos son datos del 2014, donde la disponibilidad que se proyectaba que iba a generar ese parque era la raya azul, y lo que ocurría en tiempo real era la raya roja, ¿no? O sea, esto, digamos, son parte de los aprendizajes, porque saben que esto nos afecta a nosotros como isla, sobre todo en algunos aspectos asociados a la estabilidad de la frecuencia, a que algunas líneas se saturaban porque no se contemplaba en la programación este incremento inesperado de este tipo de fuente de energía, y en la marcha, digamos, fuimos aprendiendo, ¿no? Y bueno, gracias a parte de los esfuerzos que se han estado haciendo mancomunados con el Estado Dominicano y el proyecto de transición energética que la GIZ nos ha estado, digamos, colaborando durante aproximadamente 3 años aproximadamente, en todo este periodo, uno de los aspectos que hemos implementado es el sistema de pronóstico centralizado, en las instalaciones del organismo coordinador, que es la entidad que realiza la planificación y la operación del sistema desde el punto de vista de la programación y también las transacciones económicas comerciales. Con el apoyo de la GIZ, pues se ha implementado este sistema de pronóstico centralizado, donde nuestros técnicos han podido, por ejemplo, ya parametrizar y tener mejores resultados. Fíjense el gráfico del mismo parque eólico que le mostré anteriormente. Fíjense cómo ya hoy en día tenemos un pronóstico más certero y eso nos ayuda a nosotros a realizar una mayor programación y cambiar nuestras consignas de programación, sobre todo el considerar esta variabilidad de estas tecnologías que ofrecen y poderlas contemplar en el programa diario, por ejemplo, en el programa diario de operación o en el programa semanal, que son aspectos del corto plazo, vamos a decir, son programaciones de corto plazo, que es donde tenemos que ver la programación horaria y la programación semanal del abastecimiento de la demanda. Esto, por ejemplo, también son en el caso de la solar, tenemos también ya, para entonces no teníamos, para el 2014 no teníamos parques solares, por eso no puedo hacer la comparación de un gráfico y otro, pero también evidentemente también podemos evidenciar y estar estudiando el comportamiento, ¿no? Desde el punto de vista de la pronóstico de los parques eólicos y fotovoltaicos, de lo que están ahora y de lo que próximamente se estarán instalando en un futuro. Ahí utilizamos métodos, por ejemplo, estadísticos, como error medio, vamos a decir, los errores medios aritméticos y también los temas de los errores medio cuadráticos, para obviamente, entre otras metodologías, error medio absoluto y error medio cuadrático, para ver, entre otros criterios, para estudiar, ¿no? Las diferencias. Pero también hay algo que tenemos que tomar en consideración, y es que antes de nosotros tener un sistema de pronóstico, pues también teníamos ya una serie de dificultades para nosotros insertar para poder insertar mayor generación de fuentes renovables, sobre todo en zonas de República Dominicana donde la demanda es muy mínima, ¿no? Y se tiene una gran cantidad de generación instalada. La idea obviamente surgió de que surgían restricciones operativas en la red que no nos permitían evacuar toda la generación que se inyectaba, sobre todo las eólicas, para transportarla de la zona hacia las zonas de mayor consumo. Esto creaba pérdidas y situaciones de condiciones de islas económicas en el sistema, que nos llevó a nosotros a implementar sistemas de operaciones o sistemas de configuración alternativas para poder insertar la mayor cantidad de fuentes renovables que sea posible, y en los momentos obviamente que se necesitaba restringirla, pues se tuvo que implementar esto, ¿no? En este caso estamos hablando de los... Sí.
Perdona, te voy a tener que interrumpir porque cuando me invitaron a hacer la moderación de este programa me exigieron que fuera muy estricta con el horario y quería solo decirte que ya el tiempo llegó al fin. Si puedes ya ahora resumir un poco los últimos slides, te lo agradecería muchísimo.
Sí, no hay problema, no hay problema.
Gracias, Joelis.
Sí, bueno, una de las principalmente, las metas importantes obviamente y lo que nos ha llevado a este desafío es que tenemos que tener una infraestructura de red con mucho mayor robustez para poder inyectar toda la generación renovable que se produce o que se produciría en los años futuros. Este sería, por ejemplo, parte de la inversión que hay que realizar en República Dominicana, donde la inversión se llevaría alrededor de 190 millones de dólares del 2021 al 2035. Y como sabemos, otros desafíos que tenemos que enfrentar son el poder implementar generación flexible o tecnología flexible ante la inminente inserción de fuentes renovables, ¿no? Donde se reduce la inercia y aumenta, digamos, una inercia de tipo electrónica. Esta, digamos, es la verdadera transición energética. Y en la parte de generación distribuida, bueno, pues también tenemos que contemplar el efecto de almacenamiento, sobre todo en las horas donde tenemos mayor insolación, que se baja la demanda, pero luego entonces tenemos un incremento inesperado y no sabemos cómo enfrentarlo. Sobre todo la movilidad eléctrica, que es algo que hay que definir si el usuario tiene que cargar en horas de punta o en horas de valle. Tenemos que implementar este tipo de tarifas y así evitar este efecto de la cola de pato. Entre otros desafíos que tenemos aquí, por ejemplo, donde el proyecto de transición energética no está dando apoyo en el proceso de ventanilla única de inversión de fuentes renovables, en un proceso de código de red, regulación para fortalecer la regulación para almacenamiento y tecnología flexible y fortalecimiento de la generación distribuida, entre otros, para adaptar nuestra normativa vigente. Gracias por todo y disculpen la toma de tiempo.
Joelis, muchísimas gracias. No tienes que disculparte por nada. Estamos muy agradecidos de conocer sobre lo que está pasando en República Dominicana, sobre todo la acción que se ha tomado bastante rápida. Pienso que es muy interesante lo que nos explicabas sobre las estrategias políticas, también el marco legal y regulatorio que ha sido clave para poder desarrollar proyectos. Creo que este es una... como tú lo llamabas, son los pasos de bebé, que esa analogía es muy cierta y me alegra mucho que hayas podido compartir con nosotros estas experiencias. Creo que van a haber muchas personas que van a estar viendo esta presentación, no solo ahora en vivo, sino que más tarde en nuestro salón de videos. Había una pregunta, pero la respondiste tú ya, donde preguntaban sobre los actores internacionales. Veo que hablaste también de la cooperación con la Agencia Alemana de Cooperación, con otras empresas alemanas también en el sector, y sé que ustedes tienen también una página de internet donde tienen un directorio de empresas dominicanas también que están involucrándose en este proyecto de la transición energética. Y realmente creo que va a ser muy interesante también para nuestros espectadores poder entrar a esta página de internet y darle una miradita a esto.
Bueno, María, a las órdenes de todos, cualquier pregunta puede estar en mi correo, tú le das mi contacto.
Claro que sí, muchísimas gracias. Voy entonces ya con la premura del tiempo. Veo que ya Jan está aquí presente. I must change now in English. Hi, Jan, thank you very much. I know you had a very busy schedule, and I am very happy to have you with us. Mr. Knack is representing today the German Solar Association. He has been all around the world talking about the wonderful possibilities that the photovoltaic and the solar thermal industry has a deep knowledge, and is going to talk to us a little bit more about this topic. Jan, I give you now the word. If you can please share your screen now so that we can look at your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria, for this nice introduction. I'm trying to share my screen at the moment. Wait a second. Yes, I hope everyone can see it. And now I have to see that you get the full screen, the full picture of it. Okay, very nice. Yes, thank you very much. Buenos dias, buenas tardes, bom dia. To everyone in Latin America. Yes, my name is Jan Knack. I work for the German Solar Association, and I'm happy today to share a little bit insights from Germany, which might be applied to the to Latin American markets. Yes, I will quickly speak a little bit about us as association, our activities. Then I speak about PV in Germany, solar thermal in Germany, and then a little bit where there might be similarities or where there might be differences. Looking at Latin America, of course, here we speak in a country with more than a continent, but nevertheless, let's see what's happening. Yes, very quickly, we as German Solar Association, we represent the solar market, which means PV, solar thermal, and the energy storage sector. And apart from doing the usual lobbying, we also are involved in public relation, observing markets, work on standardization and campaigns. And we represent around about 800 member companies along the entire value chain. Yes, we have been active in many different countries, mostly with exchange, like with partnerships with other association, renewable and solar association, but also in consulting projects. And at the moment, we are currently mainly active in Mexico and Brazil with a project on solar thermal process heat for industry, but we also have other activities in Argentina, in Brazil, as well, briefly in Colombia and Costa Rica a long time ago. So we know a little bit about Latin America. Nevertheless, it is certainly not the focus of what we do. Yes, if we have a look, I also don't know how much installations there are accumulated all of Latin America. But if we look at the left side of the screen, yes, Germany, where you can see the irradiation is a lot less. We have currently about, if we speak of PV, around 53 gigawatts of PV installed, and yeah, this year we expect around about 4.5 gigawatts of new installations, which is covering this year around 11% of the entire the first half of the year of the energy generated, which makes Germany, not in terms of irradiation, but in terms of installed capacity, a superpower. We are rivaling, I think last year, this is 2018, last year, I don't have the numbers, unfortunately. I think, Australia might have overtaken us. But if you look at the per capita installation, Germany is quite a big player in this field. And here in Germany, we also, of course, are facing many of the challenges that you see if you have, speaking of PV, if you have a lot of fluctuating renewable energies that are grid connected. Yes, this has been shown by Stefan Krauter, as I said, or as said before, due to also reduced consumption due to COVID, we have seen nearly 56% of the entire energy generation in the first half in the power mix. So renewables is playing a big part. If you consider that only in 1990 we had mostly hydro, only 4%. So in a way, Germany shows a way where the development could go. And what is interesting about the German market, in contrary to probably most of what we see in Latin American countries, it's a very distributed system. We had more than 1.7 million systems installed last years, and of course most of the systems are rather small. So but they are still grid connected. So the focus is not on the large scale, but it's more on the small scale. Nevertheless, we have, like other countries, maybe even more ambitious than other countries. We want to get to to up to 100% of renewable energies by 2050s. And if we look at solar, because wind and solar will be the major energy sources, we would need around about 200 gigawatts of installed capacities, which goes much beyond what we are currently doing, especially in the next years, where of course we as Solar Association would hope for rather 10 gigawatts than 4.5. Nevertheless, we are on a very good way. And in Germany, I would consider this development, or we consider this development rather sustainable, because you have a lot of people who are benefiting from the electricity. Nowadays, the major business model is most about self-consuming the energy, and so not using grid electricity, mostly to save money. And so there are a lot of systems which are installed every year, mainly on small and mid-sized buildings. And for companies, it's a highly interesting possibility to reduce their energy bill, especially with east-west roofs that make use of the solar energy when it is there all the year. This is has only been possible since we have been dealing with a tremendous technology, which when we first started this index here on the module price and the system cost, has gone more down by nearly 91% for the modules, and more than 75% for the installed system cost, if we speak of rooftop systems. So PV has become affordable. It has no longer to be subsidized as many countries did in the first 10-15 years. of solar installations, but it's a real opportunity. And if we look at the tenders that we've seen worldwide, solar is the cheapest energy source for generating electricity. Nevertheless, the next big thing is just on the doorstep. And this is something which we also see in Germany, that there a large market for storage systems, for electrical storage systems has evolved. And we expect that this market is certainly growing, especially with electric mobility booming or starting to boom, as we see at the moment. So looking at a few trends, yes, we see very low generation costs and solar as a good way for hedging electricity costs, which are quite high in Germany. Here are like cost figures in euro cents for yes, for residential, for commercial and industrial systems. We see that also for this system, PV and storage is a solution that is now cost efficient, and we see, especially in the small scale market, we see a lot of installations. But we also see that solar is getting its share in the heating market with PV heat pump combinations, and or as for fueling cars. Home devices become smarter, thus they can easily connect to the PV systems, and through an infrastructure which enables solar systems to participate in in the market via platform. We also see that there are first approaches of the larger of these rooftop systems that are participating and electricity on trading platforms. So a bit of the lesson what we've learned. Yes, solar can be an investment opportunity nowadays. You don't need any more subsidies. You only need a framework. It is a great opportunity for job and value creation. We are seeing that yes, there are companies along the entire value chain that are interacting, and this is certainly something which is different here in Europe due to the very affordable access to financing. It is, yes, it is definitely easy to install, and one has to say that the financing certainly often makes up for the lot lesser irradiation, because I know in some of the countries in Latin America you have very high interest rates. But something which is also very important, and which we see in many countries, is that if you have a lean legal administrative process, and in order to connect and to bill, if you have systems connected to the grid, this makes life a lot easier for investors, and you will get a lot of the small scale systems to participate in the market. Yes, and of course the colleague before has said something about it. Yes, with grid connected PV, you of course have to think about the frequency and stability of the grid, but there are technologies which are being solved. This for the moment on Germany, on PV. Now a few words on solar thermal, which is a market that in Germany that has been in the small scale sector, 1 and 2 family houses. We've seen a pretty decrease, but now the first year as a turn. And the reason for this is not only more awareness for this technology, because heating in Germany and most other European countries is covering for around 50% of the energy need. And also the awareness that it's quite, actually heating is quite important. But we really needed the push from the climate movement last year to create awareness, together with our lobbying activities, to increase the funding. And this is something which is certainly interesting for you, that there are nowadays solutions which are affordable in Germany. For example, that it is possible, even in a climate like Central Europe, to have energy autonomy, the combination of PV and solar thermal, to basically you don't need anymore a connection to the external world to generate your heat or your electricity. And something for especially for district heating, we also see the emergence of large solar thermal plant more and more, which provide energy, which provide heat to cities and communities, especially in summer, at stable heat prices, which are more affordable than of the conventional combined heat and power plants in summer. So we are seeing new movements, and then there's something we we are pushing, and this is also what our projects in Latin America, Mexico, and Brazil are about, which is the use of solar thermal for industrial heat, which is a very huge market, and where we see very nice projects and activities and many companies offering these services also in Latin America. On the project website, we have an overview of the companies that are providing solutions here. Coming a bit to the chances for the solar market in Latin America, we know there's a strong focus on power plants, and the energy generation costs with solar, if you speak of PV, is a lot lower in these power plants. In Germany, we are facing a highly saturated electricity market, though we replace nuclear power plants and coal, as we've heard, while you in Latin America and many countries have an overall growing electricity demand, despite of also having to replace some older plants. In Germany, we are very densely populated and have virtually very little resources. You have abundance of natural resources, but on the other hand, we have the advantage that we have a highly compact infrastructure, that there are a lot of electricity lines, there are a lot of heat systems, which is something which is certainly costly for you. And then it makes certainly a lot of sense to think about generating the electricity at the place where it is consumed. And yes, we have high energy, and so the trend towards using less energy or self-generating is a driver, while many Latin American countries low or medium energy costs, as we were considering. On the other hand, financing in Europe is usually no problem, and while for you, financing is often an issue. Nevertheless, there are lots of things which are common. Solar PV, as well as sometimes solar thermal, is by far the the cheapest source of energy. Employment is a big key also for winning elections, and solar, especially distributed solar, provides a lot of employment activities and wealth creation, because a lot of the wealth creation is local, especially if you consider the installation and maintenance. Solar and in particular PV is a base technology for all kind of new emerging smart technologies, and also for future mobility, if you look at electric mobility or hydrogen. And as I mentioned, distributed solar is very close to the consumer. So you need only little new infrastructure, which sometimes often has to be improved. Nevertheless, you don't have to necessarily have to build new power lines. And yes, and of course, we know you have producers of components, you have installers, and thus it's certainly these companies that are there, they are looking for new activities to bring on their knowledge and their competence into the market. Nevertheless, this is something which certainly we can learn from Germany. We've seen a stable policy, especially in the electric sectors. It's more than 20 years. You need government dedication. That the colleague from the Dominican Republic has spoken about the programs that are being implemented there. It helps a lot if you have lean bureaucratic processes and installations, but often you have to break up state monopolies, and especially in the electric sector, facilitate grid integration. You have to, by this, you also have to allow new business models, starting with self-consumption, but also trading electricity, and this all goes via the electricity grid. Heat usually has to be locally produced and consumed. And but nevertheless, you start at a point where you don't necessarily need financial incentives, but you can weigh up the savings which you have on the one side by the use of cheap energy with the costs that are there for changing the infrastructure. So eventually you are many of the countries are in the position that you can change the infrastructure, that it's a true win-win situation for all of you. But for this, you need financing lines, you need banks that are aware of the use of solar of the project. And of course, you have to have demand for it, people who are aware of it, who know about the benefits. And eventually, this is another thing, what you see, quality for sustainable and long-term duration is a key aspect. So yes, these are certainly aspects that we have in common, especially if that should be there. If we look from the regulatory perspective, where certainly many governments can work on and can have a look at Germany, what could be useful for them. So I thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Muito obrigado. To all of you, I hope this gave you a quick overlook what we've done in Germany and what might be in there for you in some of the Latin American countries. And I was very happy to present here. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Jan. We are very grateful to you. It's very important to know about these aspects that are necessary to have. What are the conditions? What are the benefits? Also, to not be so afraid. The amortization of solar projects can be done, and yes, there are many actors that have to come together. And this brings me to a question that one of our some from our audience wants to ask you. It's a question from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And the question is, do you think it would be great to have association partnership with ACE Solar or other solar associations in Latin America? I heard that SEQUA promotes such collaboration and has funds for it.
Yeah, actually, we had a few exchange with ACE Solar from Costa Rica. Yes, it's definitely important, but nevertheless, we find that yes, usually if you want to do, apart from having the contact and exchanging, you usually need a funding vehicle. SEQUA might be one opportunity to do it. And but if we speak of Central America, yes, it would be certainly more of a regional approach, because for such a funding, each of the Central American countries is too small. So you'd probably look for an approach which is covering like the whole ISMO, all of the 6 or 7 countries, which are there in order to make it viable. Nevertheless, this would have to be a long-term approach, since we are currently having probably one is in discussion, 2 projects funded in Africa, and SEQUA might be reluctant to fund too many projects in such partnerships with solar associations. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. I think this is very important for many people from our audience, and maybe it's a start to look for solutions to be able to have an option in some partnerships anyway. But thank you very much, Jan. I'm going to change topics now. Would like to introduce now well, also my good friend Carla Tapia. Carla is Senior Sales Manager in Latin America. She has developed many projects in the region. Carla worked in Germany many years also developing projects from wind energy, not only here but in other countries. And since a couple of years, she's dedicating her full time in developing projects in Latin America. Carla, the title of your presentation is very important for all of us, because it's not only important to know about the technology, but also what this type of projects bring to a region, how the citizens participate, what are the co-benefits that this type of projects bring. So I invite you to share your screen now, Carla, and we're really eager to listen to what you have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, now.
Yes, you can see it. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction, Maria Jose. Yeah, first of all, I would like to make a small correction because I work for Enercon, a wind turbine manufacturers, and we don't develop projects. So really developing projects is not my main experience, let's say, but I have been, of course, working in many projects and in Latin America mainly for more than 10 years already. And of course, we are very, we close we work very close together with the developers. Yeah, the title of my presentation, and I'm very happy for the invitation to talk about this, because it's something that normally we as a manufacturer don't cover so much, at least in presentations. Is the co-benefits for the communities where the wind projects are located, and best practices to get there. I changed a bit the title to community engagement, because there is no way to talk about co-benefits and best practices, especially co-benefits for the communities, without talking about the engagement. Despite the fact that the community engagement and the relationship with the communities where the wind farms are located is mainly a topic that is led by the project developers and also by the utilities. Of course, Enercon, with more than 30 years of experience, has been involved in many projects, and we also have seen how our projects impact the environment where we are based. I would like to talk mainly about this area, and then focusing on our participation during the installation phase. And at the end, I will give you some impressions about at least 2 projects that we have implemented in Latin America in the last years. First of all, maybe to recap a bit, or talk about what we have done in the last years. I mean, we have installed more than 50 gigawatts worldwide, more than 30,000 wind turbines. And in Latin America, we have also almost 2 gigawatt installed capacity that gave us the opportunity to see, of course, many different experiences. We have seen good experiences, also others that are less good, let's say, because at the end, it's always the result from the efforts that all the parties involved in the projects do in advance. So we hope that in the future, and now that the wind energy is getting more and more important, there is, of course, better results, because we are more focused on the engagement of the communities, and also on improve the practices, implementing best practices for the implementation of the wind projects. So to start, just to make to take a look at the forecast for the coming years and the installation of wind energy projects in Latin America, assuming that the COVID will not have major impact. This is a graphic from Bloomberg, and we can see that at least we will install almost 5 gigawatts per year in Latin America. And this will, of course, have a big impact, because there is no project without impact, and this will get more and more challenge. And definitely having a good communication with the people around the wind farms, around our projects, will help to create a better understanding of the wind farm and the activities that are going to take place in that area. And of course, this also supports the good, let's say, the good impression that the communities will have of the projects, and of course also reduce uncertainties related to the implementation of the projects, because of course we will count with the support of the communities. I would like to take as an example, I mean, there is many associations, wind energy associations, that have been working and developing policies for community engagement. And I took this summary that has been created by the Australian Wind Association. That is, you will find the full report in the homepage of the Global Wind Energy Council. I think it's a very good summary of the importance of the different actions or measures that you can take through the whole development of the project, and give also a lot of examples or some advice and how to improve the acceptance of projects through the higher involvement of the community. How much we involve the community in the project it's very relevant from the beginning to the end. I mean, from the first moment when the project developers go to the site and try to look for a location, through the whole permitting process, and construction, of course, is very, very important, and probably the most huge impact, or the biggest impact coming during this phase. And also, of course, during the operation and even the decommissioning of the wind farms. I personally would like to focus on the construction phase, because this is the part where we, as a manufacturer, as a wind turbine supplier, are more involved. But it doesn't mean that the rest of the topics are less important. I think during the construction phase, of course, we have already worked a lot with the suppliers and with the developers and with our customers, in this phase, you know, in the relationship with the communities. We support them sometimes in meetings that they do on site to explain them what is the project, what is bringing to the locality, what they can expect for the coming years. And when we come to the execution phase, normally we have, or at least we should have, at least this is what we try to do, already implemented in our contract with our customers, utilities mainly, or project developers. And we already have normally in the contract some agreements and responsibilities assignment related to the relationship with the communities. Sometimes we put guarantees ensuring that payments will be done, taking responsibility for our subcontractors, because when we go to site and when we have to implement a big project, it's not only Enercon on site, there's also many other subcontractors from many subcontractors that are involved in the civil works and electrical works, transportation, and many other topics. And they also have a relationship with the community. They impact the community negatively, positively. And we have to, or we try at least to make clear that, or to already implement in the contract some mechanism to follow up on that, and make sure that we are taking responsibility also for our subcontractors. I think during the whole phase, and especially during the construction phase, before we start, it's very important to identify all the players, all the suppliers, the local suppliers, and all the institutions that are locally and that could support or have an opinion, of course, because they are organized sometimes related to the project. So we try to map them, to have an idea of where are our counterparts, and also be able to see what they can provide, so that we try to use the most of the services that are already there, with avoiding bringing from other places that can be more expensive, and we are not benefiting the local suppliers. It's very important to have a completely open access to information, so that the community can understand better the project, and can always get access to what is coming, to the information, to the project, what are the benefits that they can expect, or what are even the interferences that they can expect. Because I mean, during the execution phase of a project, there is a big disruption that we cause. I mean, we come with big components, we block the transit sometimes, we bring a lot of people, there is a change, of course, and especially in wind farm projects that normally are located in very remote areas where not much is happening before we arrive there. So it's important to be always proactive and seek for opportunities that can help us to create benefits for the people around there. So we try, together with the customers, we try to be open to organize site visits, to create also an open channel for complaints or for information, and to follow up also on different complaints or suggestions that we get from the people. We try to organize regular meetings. I mean, and organize the activities that are coming, so that we are considering the suggestions or concerns that the people around the wind farm may have. Once we are already on site, of course, and I would like to go back to the last topic, because I think it's one of the most important one, that's related to collaborative contract with the local suppliers, and also with the local suppliers, and make sure that all the service providers locally get a profit of the installation of the projects. Because when we are there, we have a lot of people, we use a lot of the services, and we have seen not always good experiences. I mean, if you look at the news and in different countries in Latin America, sometimes we have even communities stopping projects because they are not so happy with the results, or because they don't get paid, or whatever. So I think this is one of the most important topics, at least for us. We try to follow up and to create together with our customers like a track monthly or very, very regularly about the relationship between our subcontractors and the local service providers. Because of course we create a lot of activities, but we have to make sure also that they are getting profits, and they are getting in a better place, or getting increasing their income due to these activities, and not the opposite. I would like to mention, or at least to talk about two projects in detail, one in Brazil and the other one in Uruguay, and go a bit through the main advantages, because of course we have some very obvious effects, like the increase of the activities, like restaurants and hotels, and also the local employment, because there is always some supplies that we need to do locally, and some people that most of the people are hired locally. Of course, not related to the installation, because these are specific teams coming normally from other countries, or are a complement. And also there are other benefits related to the identification of the communities with green energy, and even the development of tourists around the wind energy. I remember, for example, in Costa Rica, in a specific project that we had where we didn't get one of the areas or land to develop the wind farm because the community, and maybe we failed there to present better the project together with the developer at that time. But the owners of the land, they didn't want to have the wind farm around there. And when we started the installation of the project, the opinion changed. They wanted to include or to have also some wind turbines in their area. It was not possible anymore, unfortunately. But we could see that during the time when we were explaining more, and they could see other benefits like improving the roads, the access, and they saw that many people started to come to visit the wind turbines because it was attractive. It looks nice, and in the area the roads were improved, that it was possible to go there and to see the rest of the city from the top of the hill. That created already more activities, restaurants that even after finishing the installation of the wind farm, there were restaurants on the way to the hill, because being the top of the hill is always a nice area to look for the rest of to look around. And to be more familiarized with these huge wind turbines are of course very interesting. Then they started to do also sport events, cycling, and this means a lot of people, a lot of visitors, tourism, restaurants, and increase of activity that of course create additional income sources for the people that were already there from the beginning. I will go directly to the two examples that I put here, the link, both of them. You can see the videos and the whole explanation about the impact of this project in the communities, or in the locations and the cities where they are located. In these videos are very interesting. I recommend to have a look. And for example, this project is located at the interior of Bahia. It's quite remote, and it's an area that it doesn't have a high population, 15,000 more or less estimated people living there, and mainly in rural areas. It's an area that is mainly agriculture. The main activity is agriculture and marble extraction. So there was not much happening before this huge wind farm with 100 wind turbines came to that area. If you can see here for this project where we installed 95 wind turbines, which is a lot, it's a huge wind farm. Only from our people, our subcontractors and our technicians, during the peak time of the installation, we were around 500 workers on site, and also this is not considering the balance of plant activities like civil works and electrical works. So in total, during the peak time, it's like 8 to 1,000 people in that area. This is, of course, you need to create a lot of new businesses to be able to supply the needs of so many people. As I said before, hostels, pubs, clothing, everything. I mean, the locals, they start to create it completely new business, because they have to supply goods that are not necessarily common there, because you have people from other countries, different cultures, different behaviors, the way they eat, the way they live are different, and that's why it's also an adaptation and creates businesses around these new needs. The other project that I would like to mention is Uruguay, Peralta 1 and 2 with 50 wind turbines. In this project, we did everything like installation, civil works and electrical works. And similar to the other project, is a very remote location.
You just have 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay, but I'm finished. No worries.
Yeah,
it's also a very remote location, very similar. And as you can see, I mean, I'm showing here that we improved the roads in areas that it was nothing before, so it was very difficult access. A lot of local employment. We, as mentioned before, restaurants activities increases a lot. And maybe something very important, we work always a lot with the schools. This in all the projects that we have implemented so far. And this is a big responsibility because we are creating awareness in these kids and the new generation, also interest for professional development in the area of wind energy and renewables. Climate change, they feel more identified with what they have around and where the future the expectation for the futures in terms of professional development. So finally, and to close, I would like to just go back again to what we are expecting. We have seen the presentations before related to the transition. I think we are in the middle of the transition. Moving to clean energy matrix will be, I mean, it's happening today and it will be a big challenge. And we definitely need to make sure that we create values on the areas that we are implementing the wind turbines or the wind projects, because there is no way to have positive impact not only in the climate but also in the communities. There is no way to do it without involving the communities, and it will be anyway a big challenge. So we have to be more aware of that. And so I recommend to anyone involved in development projects to have a look at the guidelines that have been created already for best practices and community engagement and social impact that many of the wind associations around the world have been creating in the last years. Okay, thank you very much, Maria Jose, for the time and for the people connected. And
thank you very much, Carla. It's very important to acknowledge that we're all in this together. The communities are very much important, the private sector, the economical sector, the public sector. So I think the examples that you showed to us are going to serve as an inspiration. And I thank you again and remind everyone that all of these presentations are going to be on demand today, later on in our video salon. We're going to make a 5-minute break. It's very short, but I think we all need at least the 5 minutes. And then we will be back with the second session of our program, which includes biogas energy, the development of geothermal energy and the use of heat, storage and security, green hydrogen, and business models with renewable energies. So we'll see you in 5 minutes.